I'm the scat man. Yo, do, do, do. Slimmy, limmy, ding, yo, do, do, do. Yo, do, do, ba, 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 bee, ba, 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 do. Ba, 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 do. Wee, ba, 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 do. We got Olympic hockey. It's back.
It's finally here.
Let's go. Welcome to Puck Props presented by Bet99 Olympic edition. Good to see the pumpers there in the chat. Someone says, let's go bowling. I never want to go bowling again. I spent 3.5 hours yesterday, Carlo, at the bowling lanes trying to bowl 200. Failed, and now my body hates my guts. So
you couldn't. What were you playing? 5-pin, 10-pin? What were you playing?
10-pin.
And you couldn't bowl 200?
I averaged like a 165, which is respectable.
You were there for 5 hours, you said.
The longer I got there, the more my body broke down.
Jesus.
I got blisters all over my thumbs. I'm an old man.
What was the occasion to go bowling?
I lost a Super Bowl bet, so I had to do that.
Okay,
let's see
so
those
what
blisters.
Was the bet?
Shit. It was a TD bet with John Metler. It cost, everything probably cost me about $200.
So the loser had to pay for a bowling round? Was that the bet?
The loser had to go, couldn't leave a bowling alley until he bowled 200, and then I had to leave.
Oh, Jesus.
Yeah, I know.
High school?
Yeah, it is high school. That's fine with me. We have Olympic hockey. This is a giant day. Canada goes tomorrow, but today will be every day, 10 a.m. to 10:30, talking about the games. We'll talk about the 6-10 game the day before, so we don't have to get on that. Let's just get right to it. And for a person who's worn the national jersey in their lifetime as yourself and played exceptionally, got some hardware, what does it mean to put on the jersey? And what does it mean to you as someone formally to do that, to finally get back to it on a different stage?
Well, I think I've said this before, that hockey players are very proud players, and they play with a lot of pride about telling people or sharing with people where they came from, right? You go to college, you got a lot of pride of where college you went through, right? You play junior hockey, you got a lot of pride in what junior hockey team you play for. You grow up in a certain country, you're very proud because you want to be able to share with everybody how much pride you have in representing your country. So the fact that, this is something at this level that hasn't been seen in 12 years, and the fact that, in every stage of your life, you get an opportunity to represent either your province or your country or your state at some level of hockey on a big stage at a tournament somewhere. There's no bigger stage than this. Representing your country at the Olympics. We had Chris Pronger on our show this year, and I asked him flat out. The guy's won a Stanley Cup. He's won 2 gold medals. He's probably got a trophy case better than anybody. And I asked him flat out, I said, when people come over and look at your trophy case, what is the one thing they are more in awe of? Is it your Olympic gold medal that has that big, shiny Hockey Canada ring on it? Or is it your Stanley Cup ring? And he said, 1A, 1B. Very close.
Love it. That pass. That was his pass through Lemieux's legs, right?
Yeah.
That's still one of the most underappreciated Canadian hockey moments ever, for Lemieux to let that go between his skates. And you should wait for producer Chris's Canada hype video coming out later today, tomorrow. Absolutely insane. Let's go through the run. Finland minus 450, minus 1.5 on the puck line, 5.5 leaning to the under. The plays for me: Slovakia team total under 1.5, even money. We'll get that one thrown up. Producer Mick, throw that one up now. Slovakia team total under 2.5. Look at the graphics we got here.
Under 2.5 or under 1.5?
Under 1.5. Sorry, plus 105. And I will get to, I got a Granlund goal on this, and I know Korolnik, your partner in crime, is also heavily involved in that. I just think there's a massive difference on paper between these two teams. Finland, 97% NHL rostered, massive goalie advantage. Jussi Saros versus Samuel Halavs, who owns an .885 save percentage, 335 goals against in the AHL. Carlo, question to you. When you think of Finnish national stage hockey, what comes to mind?
Pesky.
Yeah.
Pesky Finns. Because this is a team that every international tournament, like even though the Four Nations, where nobody really gave them much, credibility or didn't really give them much praise, but they always find a way to play a hard game and make life difficult on some opponent. And they've done a great job. I think the Barkov absence is really going to hurt them this year, but this is a very proud country with a lot of proud players. Like the Finns are very proud to be from Finland and play a Finnish brand of hockey, which is in your face, which is hard checking, which is tight defensively, usually gets great goaltending because I don't know what they put in the water in Finland, but they breed out really great goaltenders. But yeah, it's the name that sort of everybody refers to them as, and that's the pesky Finns.
I also think that Finland or any of the Four Nation teams have a massive advantage coming into this tournament. Slovakia having to gear up. 2-1 win over Austria, 3-1 win over Kazakhstan just to get here in Olympic qualifiers. 2025 world champions roster, very similar. Dvorsky, Regenda, same starting goaltender. Slovakia, just 9 goals in 7 games. Top line for Finland, Hintz, Rantanen, Granlund, all power play, one correlated. They add Aho and Heiskanen at that back end. Love the Granlund goal. OT winner versus Sweden. 3 goals, 1 assist in the Four Nations. Wearing the C. I like him at a goal plus 200 or better, and he is in my boosted play for Bet99. Him, Eriksson Ek, scored today, boosted to plus 900. Some other guys you might want to look out for this side. Simon Nemec, going to play some big minutes for Slovakia. Anton Lundell, as you mentioned, Barkov not in this tournament. Barkov light, playing on that third line with Kako and Itu. Should see no power play time, but should be a force in this game. Should have a big role. Aho assist, minus 115 if you're looking for points, because point props are hard to find in this game. Italy is plus 4,000 on the money line, Carlo. Not sure how that makes you feel as a fellow Italian. Sweden minus 4.5 on the puck line. Over under sitting at 6.5. My favorite play of the day. First period, Sweden minus 1.5. Even money here. This is the Sweden team total. First period 1.5 is like minus 135. The first period over 1.5 is minus 187. Do we really think that Italy is going to score in the first period or just maybe score in this game? Their team total under 0.5 is minus 105. This team is looking to get shut out, and maybe not since the last Olympics where we saw China in it, that we might see a team get absolutely destroyed. China, 2 goals for, 16 against in their 3 round-robin games of the 2022 Olympics. 8-0 is on the table. Could this just get very ugly for the Italians?
It could. I mean, I think the fan in me wants to see, one of the biggest upsets in sports take place.
Oh,
right?
God.
Could you imagine?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, there's a lot of attention being brought to Canada and US because I think that's the matchup everybody's looking forward to, considering the momentum it built coming off of the Four Nations. But I think Sweden is one of those teams that's quietly just going about their business, that nobody's really, paying too much attention to, that could easily, not even say easily, that could really make a strong push to be a gold medal favorite with their roster.
Sweet Pickles, while you were gone, he says, where's the other guy? And then today he says, I'm so happy the other guy is back. Thanks, Sweet Pickles.
Pickles, love it.
Pickles. Probably Gustafsson, likely. Damian Clara is for Italy. He's a giant. He was actually the number 60th pick for Anaheim. He's 6'5", does have an 888 save percentage in Sweden right now. I love Eriksson Ek in this tournament. Got him points leader for Sweden, 16-1 points leader in the tournament at 100-1. He led all Swedish forwards in time on ice of the Four Nations, 1944. William Nylander, we don't know what's going to happen with him. Philip Forsberg is somehow the 13th forward in this game. I think they're probably doing that just because it's Italy. But we could see that. Another guy who's going to have a big role, Rasmus Dahlin, who will take over the power play 1 duties. We saw Victor Hedman be an absolute minute muncher in the Four Nations. He's not ramped up yet, just coming back, so he won't have those minutes. He's not even playing full minutes in Tampa Bay. So one of the most underrated offensive defensemen in all hockey, Rasmus Dahlin, looking for a big role, and I think he finds it. And then let's look at the 6-10 game here before we bring in Todd. France is plus 750 and Switzerland minus 3.5. I'm going the Swiss minus 3.5. Scoring is important in the round robin game with tiebreakers going to be massive, and tiebreakers going goal differential and then goals for after points and head to head. Teams are going to have to run it up for seeding because first top guys move on, and then the fourth team, which is the best second place team of all the groups, will move on as well. Carlo, Italy's plus 4,000. France is implied around 12% to win this game, while Italy's like 2.4. Do you really think there's that much of a difference between France and Italy in terms of lineup? Yes, you have one NHL player on the French side in Alex Teixeira, but these are two teams that could both get the doors blown off them.
They absolutely could, but I always get reminded year after year when I cover the World Championships that international hockey there's always a smaller gap, right? Because there's players like on this France team, there's probably players on this team that have played together all year, right? So there's more familiarity there, more continuity. And it's, a team like Switzerland, yes, they're injecting some NHL talent, but there's a group of guys that have played together for most of the season in Switzerland. Yeah. So that's why, like, when you watch the World Championships, you see closer games, you see greater competition, you see these smaller countries compete, more in games. I don't know. I haven't seen it in Olympic hockey for such a long time. Yes, on paper, it would seem like the obvious that Switzerland would, manhandle France, but France, they play hard, man. They're going to play hard. They're probably, I don't know if they have it in them to win it, but I think they got it in them to keep it close.
2025 World Championships, France 0-7 straight up, 8 goals scored, 27 against, while Switzerland took 19 of 20 points. Tops in the group with over USA and Czechia. Yeah. 34 goals, 9 against, and lost 1-0 in overtime to the USA. So although, there's a lot of other teams bringing NHL talent, yes, there are some NHL players on the team, but there's a lot of those Swiss players who have played together, as you mentioned. And don't be surprised if Leonardo Genomi is in net ahead of Akira Schmid, because he was the one that really helped him push through that World Championship. Let's move on to our guest today. Bring him on. Todd Ferman, former odds maker, former host of Bet the Board podcast. You might have seen him on TSN with Jay Onright. Todd, happy to see you, buddy. How are you? And are you in Vegas right now?
I am indeed in Vegas, so I appreciate the early wake-up call from you gentlemen. It feels like I'm getting up on a Saturday morning to watch a little EPL.
Look at you. You're all fresh, showered. You look clean this early.
Carlo, I had to clean myself up. I mean, Josh basically goes to the righty from the bullpen to kind of set the tone for the tournament. I got to make sure I clean myself up. And naturally supporting the red, white, and blue in wake of the 5-0 win from the women yesterday against Team Canada, kind of set the tone accordingly. But look, guys, this should be a great tournament. And I think there are a lot of questions that are going to get answered, not necessarily in the first, second, or maybe even the third group stage game, but hopefully it gives us plenty of opportunity to make a few bucks along the way.
All right, first question, Mr. Oddsmaker. I've seen a lot of wild adjustments so far, derivative markets, especially in the prop markets, things just getting straight taken down. What are some of the challenges odds makers have in events like these when, correct me if I'm wrong, there isn't a lot of originating in terms of pricing and likely more copycat from book to book?
100%. You're going to get a lot of the originating books putting up their numbers. You're going to see other shops kind of copy and pasting and adjusting accordingly with minor tweaks. But this is one of the rare occurrences, and we mentioned it a lot when you're handicapping the NFL preseason, where odds makers, bookmakers, and bettors come in on a somewhat level playing field. Of course, the house can build in a little bit higher theoretical hold in the individual game markets and what you're going to see from some of the novelty props that are out there. But we're all doing guesswork along that same thought process, trying to figure out which team is going to gel the fastest, how these line combinations are going to look from game one until we get to the gold medal. And I think as you start to see some of these practice reports coming out about what power play 1 and power play 2 are going to look like, you can take that with a grain of salt. because so many of these games, unlike what we saw in the Four Nations, it's a lot of tinkering. Like Team Canada and Team USA aren't worried about how they perform in the group stage and what that first power play grouping looks like. They're more concerned about how they're going to go forward once they get to the quarterfinals. It's not about blowing out some of the minnows in this particular tournament, but trying to make sure that the right players and the right line combinations are put together. And we can go one step further, guys. Look, we're seeing some of the games already being played with Team Canada where John Cooper is not going to announce his starting goalie until later tonight. So all of the people in the Jordan Binnington truthers out there are waiting on pins and needles, hoping that Logan Thompson potentially gets the nod in game one.
So you just teed me up, Todd, because this is one of my biggest pet peeves right now. Just watching these practices and the lead up to this tournament where it's like everything has to be a secret. It's like, why does naming a goaltender have to be a secret? Does that impact the gambling line? Does it impact, the players and their fear about who's playing in net? Like, at the end of the day, players just play the game, and whoever's on the ice is on the ice. I don't get this whole secret of making sure nobody knows what lines we're using or make sure nobody knows what goaltender we're using. Help me understand why this is like this. And if there's an agreement between the sports and the gambling sites, how does this impact that? And why is there more of a stance being taken saying, guys, we need to know this stuff?
It's a great question, Carlo, and one I think is probably more apropos for the NHL when we see these games that head coaches play on a game in, game out basis, that we can't get a starting goalie announcement, say 3 to 4 hours before puck drop. Sometimes we're waiting to warm-ups. And for all of us that bet the sport on a nightly basis, kind of scrambling to make those potential adjustments from an Andre Vasilevsky to a Jonas Johansson type situation that's unfolding. But you've been around goalies as much as I have, and they are a fickle lot. So sometimes holding back some of that information keeps them from getting in their own heads. But let's not sugarcoat it. I mean, Czechia has already gone through their scouting reports. They're prepared in terms of the way that they want to attack Jordan Binnington if he's named the starter in the wake of his tremendous performance of the Four Nations, and how differently that's going to look against Logan Thompson, who could potentially get the start as well, especially with the difference between those two guys, knowing that one catches right and the other catches left. That makes things fundamentally different for the way you may want to set up on the power play and how you want to try and roll out some of those line combinations. But to your point, I think it's as much gamesmanship as anything else. I don't think it truly gives you a tactical advantage by any stretch of the imagination. And I'm very curious to see how much is being tipped ahead of time from some of these line combinations to how differently these things will look. But Josh, going back to your point in terms of how some of these markets are set, it's not lost on odds makers. I mean, they're going to shade the numbers for guys that are on the first power play unit. They're going to shade prices for guys that are expected to be inside of that top six. And if anything, it's going to create some opportunity and upside a little bit further down the board. To your point, making a case for Joel Eriksson Ek, that if he suddenly becomes the key center for what Team Sweden wants to do, you may have a chance to get a leg up on the competition right out of the gates, should they put a crooked number up on Italy like the betting market suggests.
Yeah, appreciate that. Well said. I think also one thing that people should be looking at, especially in points markets, where if you're looking assists versus points, you can usually get you get better value, obviously, in the total points market, right? So a guy like Rasmus Dahlin, who is probably going to play 23 minutes, and even in blowouts, like there's only 6 defensemen, they have to be playing. Whereas in blowout games, you have all 4 lines, and okay, maybe we'll take some minutes off the top line and we can go down that. It doesn't always balance itself out. So I wouldn't be surprised if this tournament was led, just like we saw in Four Nations, by someone like Werenski, who just goes 8 assists across the board, gets big minutes. So I think there's certainly value on there. And last thing, it's probably safe to say, back to our original question, if it's tough for books to price, there's probably more edge to the bettors.
Oh, 100%. I mean, you're going to see some wholesale adjustments being made to how these teams are power rated coming into the tournament game to game. And I think what's so fascinating is when you get some of these early tune-up games for Team Sweden against Italy, you may have strong preconceived notions about how you want to properly price the Swedes. But does it do them service playing Italy in their opener if they're not going to be battle tested, knowing their next game is going to be against Team Finland? For all intents and purposes, that's going to decide the group. So you can make the case that Team Finland will be more ready for what that Sweden matchup is going to do for them, getting a little bit more battle tested against Slovakia in their opener. But along that same wavelength, one key point that I want to make when you're handicapping the overall total points for this tournament, not just team leaders, keep in mind that 4 of these teams are going to get a bye. They're going to play one less game than their opponents. So there is a legitimate case to be made for a team that you think could finish 5th or 6th that may get that second game against Italy or France early on, that they're going to have an extra 60 minutes under their belt. So yeah, if you're looking at Germany and you believe that Leon Draisaitl or Timmy Stützle are going to have an extra opportunity, it's hard to truly quantify what that extra game will do, because as we see all the time in the World Cup, it's not necessarily what you do in the 4 or 5 games that are competitive. It's what you can do to pad the stats in that extra game against the lightweight with an extra hat trick. Maybe you get it rattle off a playmaker here or there. You have that 5-point outing. Hard to try and bridge that gap if you're not getting that second game against inferior competition.
Yeah, no, it's as a bettor, you need to know the format 100%. And that extra game is massive, especially if 5 gets to play Italy one more extra time. You can have another 9-0 game. A big difference there. Anything to add, Carlo, or no?
No, I'm just curious. I mean, we spend a lot of attention focusing on Canada and US. That's what people want to see, right? Is there a team that you're looking at right now that could surprise and give you good value on winning the gold?
So one team that I'll get to that in a second, Carlo. One team, though, that I'm not as bullish on. I know you guys talked a little bit about Team Sweden. This is a group that I actually want to sell in the tournament. And the reason I say that is because I look at the way this group is being priced. I have major questions about their centerman depth. No disrespect to Josh's favorite player in the tournament, in Joel Eriksson Ek.
Not my favorite player. That's my favorite price.
That's not a first-line center for me, guys. And when I look elsewhere on this roster, is there a game breaker for Team Sweden that you feel can take over games the same way that you're going to have for Team USA and Team Canada? But even Germany, if Leon Draisaitl gets going, or what we're going to see from the top line for Team Czechia, if David Pastrnak gets on a heater, and I look at Sweden as well on that blue line, Rasmus Dahlin is phenomenal, but you have a couple of aging defensemen that are liabilities at this level. Anyone who's watched the Penguins on a night-in, night-out basis feels zero confidence in Erik Karlsson and the way he wants to try and dangle at the blue line. Philip Broberg, still a little bit of liability for me as well. And I have some major reservations about that second and third defensive pairing. So if we're looking for teams to go against, I think Sweden's a team that's overvalued right now. And I'm going to look to probably fade if I get an advantageous number as early as that second group stage game against the Finns. Now, teams that I'm looking to try and buy, look, I'm always going to be impartial to a goalie that can steal a game or two. And I think Team Czechia probably second in the tournament behind only Team USA from a goaltending trio that I have a ton of confidence in. When I look at Lukáš Dostál and what he can do and the volume of high danger chances he faces on a night in, night out basis against the Ducks, I think it prepares him for a game of this magnitude. They're going to have an excellent chance to go to Karel Vejmelka, and even Dan Vladar, given what we've seen so far this year in Philadelphia, has me a little bit more confident. And you guys mentioned Team Switzerland. I'm very curious to see how they go about deploying their goaltending, and can they have another netminder in Giannoni that tries to take off where, Martin Gerber was before, Jonas Hiller in tournaments in the past. Inevitably, we're going to get one of these teams in that second tier that's going to goalie their opponent. There's going to be that clenching moment in the final 5 minutes against one of these heavyweights that are there. And I think it's why you want to look for some of these long shot prices that are out there. And of course, when you're taking some of these big swings in a game-to-game basis, you may not be able to land the home run. But if you believe the correct price for Team Czechia against Canada as they continue to figure out what the lineup is going to look like, should be closer to that plus 340, plus 350 range. Carlo, I think you brought up an excellent point about some of these European teams that have a lot more familiarity with one another. They're not all-star teams being put together. And when you talk about that national pride that we see on display at the World Championships, it may not show up when we get to the elimination stages and the semifinals and the finals. But early on, I think this is where those teams are going to give a little bit and then some and keep a lot of these games a lot closer. Just because they don't have the star power doesn't mean you should rule them out.
Nope. I love it. Goaltending and power play. And when you look at Czechia and you look at the Swiss, there's some certain familiarity in terms of how they can run that power play and win a game 3-0, 3-1. Finns too, as well. And I'm with you. Sweden, I don't think is not a price that I want at all. We saw them in Four Nations. They're just, as we talked earlier with Carlo, the Finns just seem like a scrappier team always to win their sixth game in the spot where Sweden is already 88's already questionable to play hockey. Forsberg's 13th. Like, I don't think it's a team with as much confidence, I think, as a team that is being projected to finish third.
The question I have for you guys and the Finns, and I know you touched on Sasha Barkov's absence, which is, a huge gap for that roster. But I also think it's important that we give them credit for getting a player like Miro Heiskanen back on the blue line, because his absence in the Four Nations definitely showed up. And for a team that, as Carlo highlighted, wants to win games 3-2, they want to try and go out there and grind you down. Maybe it's addition by subtraction that you can get a blue liner that can log 25 to 30 minutes, help insulate UC Saros a little bit more. And while I'm never going to discount the absence of Sasha Barkov, it's one player out, one player in. And you have to imagine this team is going to be a little bit more buttoned up for this particular format than what we saw at Four Nations, where they did upset the Swedes, but looked outclassed for long stretches in terms of generating offense.
Yeah, good call.
Yeah, if there was a market for time on ice leaders, that would probably be my first guess for Heiskanen, I think. And I think he's going to log a lot. Todd, I greatly appreciate the insight. As always, have a great tournament, and thanks for taking the time, pal.
Hey, appreciate it, guys. Let's enjoy what should be a tremendous 10-plus days of hockey, and hopefully we see the red, white, and blue on one side and the Maple Leaf on the other playing for a gold medal about 10 days from now.
All right, take
that
care,
would be
pal.
fun. Thanks, pal.
All right, let's go, throw the last play in. That Granlund Ek boosted 2-goal play over at Bet99 plus 900.
Wow.
Plus 900 for Captain Granlund and Eriksson Ek. Eriksson Ek, there could be a lot of goals scored in that Sweden game, plus 900. What a great price. The guys at Bet99 really helped me out getting that price in. Thank you very much. That is a great price for that. And people asking in the chat, are you going to do stacks? The point market is very different with the lopsided games. It's a really hard thing to pick out, and the books are very scared. I believe our friend Andy Francis already crushed some 2-point props, and now they don't exist anymore. So thank you very much, Andy Francis. But let's have a great day. Appreciate everybody there. Back tomorrow. Tomorrow, what do we got? Ryan Sura and David Alter. And then Friday the 13th, Andy Francis and Al's brother joining us on the Friday for Monster Day.
Yes.
All right, brother. I appreciate it. I'll post some pics as usual. Puck drop in 13 minutes. Let's have an absolute great Olympic tournament. And as always, bet responsibly. Don't overdo it in day one, right? Just control yourself. We got 10 days of hockey. This is a long run. But lead us out. Drink more water, chat. There we go.
Yeah.
Great idea. And
So I'm going to recite a great quote from the movie Cool Runnings. I'm feeling very Olympic today.
Okay. All right. Let's go. We go today. Josh Inglis, Carlo Colaiacovo, Bet99, puck props recovers. Hit that like button on your way out. Subscribe. We'll see you back here tomorrow at 10 a.m. Lead us out, pal.
See you tomorrow. Ciao.